Relatives, and welcome to week 5 of Sensory Fitness Live. My name is Val, and I'm an occupational therapist intern here at HIR Wellness Institute. And you may not know how OT and sensory fitness go hand in hand. Well, OTs are mentors of hope, dignity, and function who help individuals reach their highest potential through methods as dynamic as each person. Occupational therapists are also enablers of independence, facilitators of passion, to support long-term, meaningful goals of an individual. So these episodes of Sensory Fitness Live will address difficulties with homework, focusing, and sitting while virtual learning. COVID has really caused some major disruptions in our lives this past year, especially with the children and their parents, and schools happening very differently now. We have to think and plan harder to have a flow that sometimes I'm sure there are more opportunities of feeling out of sorts, such as meltdowns and tantrums, but they're not misbehaviors. They are outward expressions of a child's inner distress. We have to look at what our children have lost with this pandemic, steering clear from setting that bar too high. We need to know our children in a new light. We have to try to set them up to be the most functional in their routines. So therefore, sensory fitness will regulate our brains and help manage when they're feeling out of sorts. So we can focus, be alert, and connect to be in that just right, ready place. Now, last week, we talked more about interoception, which is one of our internal senses, like I mentioned last week, that provides us with the information from our internal selves to tell us what our body is feeling from the inside. I mentioned also that we learned about social and emotional learning and how we can create and develop interoception in regard to speaking to your children. I mentioned about mentioning your own bodily sensations. And then so your child can learn about their own body sensations. So then, yeah, I also mentioned that practicing mindfulness activities will help with building that interoception within a child, because it has shown to be the most effective and evidence-based intervention for improving interoceptive awareness, and helped learn also with our social emotional learning. So if we look back from last week, we mentioned 3 main core competencies of what social awareness is. Social learning. So the first one is social emotional self-awareness, emotional self-regulation, and building healthy relationships. That's what we spoke about last week, and it was pretty heavy. So I wonder, relatives, how did this go for you? Did you try any of the options that we gave from last week? Please leave us a comment down below, and we'd be happy to learn more about your experience. And we also learned about how to be a detective. We mentioned how you'll have to examine the different behaviors that your child may be expressing. In organizing these different behaviors, we thought of them as gears in an engine. So the engine is a symbol of our body, where the gears are all of our sensations. This leads us to what we're going to be talking about today, relatives. We're going to be learning more about our vestibular system and our proprioception system. Relatives first, let's take a look at our speedometer again for a little refresher. So, an engine that's running in a high gear may look like you're overwhelmed or frustrated. this one right here. You may have tense posture. Your child may be cranky, fidgeting. They may be angry, overly excited, or even fearful. If their engine is running too low, it may look like they are sad or discouraged. They might even have a slouchy posture, be sleepy, or have a lack of interest in activities. A just right gear is when we feel happy and balanced. Our children switch throughout these different gears throughout the day. And we as parents move through these different gears as well. But we do activities without really thinking about it to get us back to that just right gear. Keep in mind that we have traveled through these different gears. You might travel them all day long, through each one of them all day long, but that's okay. Sometimes we tend to stay in one of the three gears for most of the day, and that's okay too. We want to provide strategies for when the gear you are in isn't supportive with the task at hand. Relatives, we will now go over PACE to get us ready to learn the topic of the day. So let me go over what PACE is again. So PACE is a simple regulation strategy using movement to wake up the brain and bring it to that just right gear. This helps us to get into a better regulated state. PACE is a quick and easy way to get us back to that just right gear. This really is a good example as well of how proprioception and vestibular helps us to get our body in that right place. So I invite your relatives to get some water. Water helps increase electricity in our body. Take a little sip. And now from a seated position, I want you to reach down to your toes. Come back up and take note, relatives, of how that made you feel. And we'll revisit that later in a little bit. So now you're going to take one hand and place it on your chest and take the other hand and place it on your belly. Then I want you to close your eyes and just breathe. Now cross your ankles and put your arms out in front of you. And then put your palms like hands out like this, and take one of your hands and put it over and interlock with the other hand and pull it towards yourself. Okay. Then I want you to close your eyes again. Just breathe. Okay. Now we're going to take one hand and tap it to the other, like one hand to your other leg, and then take your, like, for example, your right to your left, left to your right, and just do this a couple times. Okay. And then we're going to bring our fingertips together, breathe. Then I want you to reach down and touch your toes again. And then come back up. How are you feeling, relatives? Did you notice a difference? In just a short time, we have caused the brain to be in a better regulated state. This means more opportunities for learning and directing our attention. With daily practice of several times a day or just a couple times a week doing PACE, you may notice that your child has an easier time focusing and paying attention while they're engaged in their virtual learning or in the classroom, so they can better grasp the information that is presented to them. Now let's get into what we're going to talk about today, which first I'm going to talk about the vestibular system. So the vestibular system includes parts of our inner ear and our brain that help control balance, eye movement, and spatial orientation. It helps you keep stable and upright. Children with vestibular issues may not know where their body is in space. This can make them feel off or out of balance, and maybe even out of control. When a child crawls, rolls, jumps, rocks, like rocking or spins, they receive a type of internal sensory input called vestibular. These various forms of playing have a different and positive impact on the vestibular system, which is centered in our brainstem. The brain grows from the brainstem up. So by activating the vestibular system through play and through various movements, we are helping to develop the brainstem and manage how our engines are running. So by letting your child jump on the couch, rolling around on a grassy hill, or spinning on the playground, you're helping your child's brain develop. This is why it is important to have your child do movement breaks throughout the day, especially when they are doing Zoom school. Movement will actually help them to stay more focused in school and open their brain up so they can learn. So for kids that are always on the go, their arousal level is really high. They may be even getting complaints from their teachers because they have a hard time remaining in their seat. Those are children that are seeking that vestibular input and are seeking that motion. So one way that you could help your child prepare themselves in the morning, for example, so they can start school, is take a basket and put in like their toothbrush, their toothpaste, their brush and comb, and then take that basket and place it on the floor in the bathroom so that they can get that change of head position as they're reaching down to retrieve their items from the basket. Another solution could be to have a movement. This is what move and sit cushion, also known as a wobble cushion. Okay, this could also help your child feel regulated while learning in the classroom or on a virtual platform. This cushion is filled with air, and it can really work wonders. It typically runs between like $13 to $15, and you can find it on Amazon, online, or if in person you want to go buy it in person, Walmart and Dick's Sporting Goods have them in stock. This cushion can really provide a more appropriate way for them to receive that movement that they need while sitting in their chair, which can help the child feel more regulated so that they don't need to constantly get up off their chair in order to receive that vestibular input. And now we're going to go into proprioception. So we all have receptors in our muscles that tell us where our body parts are. For example, if you raise your hand, do you know that your arm is over your head, right? So you don't have to think about it or look in a mirror to see that you have your hand raised. But kids with poor proprioception may not think their arm is over their head when it's really straight out in front of them. So they might be raising their hand and thinking they have their hand raised, but it could just be in front of them. So they don't know where their hand is in space. So proprioception is our body's internal sense of our muscles, our tendons, and joints, and is the only sense that immediately helps us to feel calm. It teaches you, like I mentioned, where your body is in space. So for a child who has a hard time knowing where their body is in space, the first thing that you should be doing is heavy work. And what heavy work is, it's giving your child compression and stretching to their joints. So we, for example, could be doing the following. A child could be pulling weeds. They could also be doing push-ups, shoveling snow, pushing a cart. By doing these activities, we are activating our proprioception system. And when our proprioception system is activated, it sends signals to our bodies to calm down and bring us to that just right gear. So go ahead and show you these little pictures up front. So before engaging in these activities that require concentration, encourage your child to help with chores or do exercises such as wall or chair push-ups. So another way that you can incorporate heavy work is with weighted items. They can be like ankle weights. I have here a weighted blanket. Ooh, pretty. You can't tell the group here, but I mean it's pretty heavy. um, a weighted vest, wrist weights, um, basically anything that's weighted to help your child feel where their body is in space. It can really regulate a child to help them feel a sense of calmness. Some more examples of heavy work can also include lifting boxes, raking leaves, vacuuming, washing tables, like a table, rolling out Play-Doh, and so much more. So whenever you or your child are not in that just right gear, do some heavy work activities to activate that calming sense in your body. Well, relatives, I really hope that this helps, and I'm so looking forward to hearing about your experiences next week in order to figure out really what strategies work best for you and your child. You have to be that sensory detective to find that out. It will take some time and it will take some trial and error. But when something is working, you'll be able to see it in your child and know which strategies were helpful and which ones weren't. Many factors may influence the changes in your child's sensory needs from day to day, from activity to activity, and even minute to minute. Therefore, you have to utilize those sensory tools that are safe and effective for your child and his or her needs. Individual sensory needs are not to be judged as good or bad, right or wrong. They just are. And we have to teach others to understand that an individual's sensory preferences are to be honored. If you have any more questions or would like to set up a personal Zoom meeting, please feel free to call our main number at 414-763-5815. Relatives, we also know that times are tough, but the different gears we are experiencing are normal. And sometimes we feel like it could be hard to manage. Here at HIR Wellness Institute, we always offer a helping hand when things seem tough. You can always send us an email for more information. And you can even call our support team, our CARES Warm Line, for emotional and social support. Our number there for CARES is 414-748-2592. Someone will be in contact with you within 24 hours of your inquiry. Relatives, thank you so much for spending this time with me today for week 5 of Sensory Fitness Live. I hope you enjoyed your time with me today just as much as I enjoyed my time with you. So I will see you next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Please contact us if you have any questions or would like some more information. Thank you, relatives. Be safe and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.